What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Goal Podcast. It is Cinco de Mayo, episode 40. It all kind of lines up, and Matt graduates college this week, so he's a grown up.
Yeah, going to be, I guess, a normal part of society now, even though I'm continuing my education in the fall.
Definitely not a normal part, but
oh yeah, a part of society.
Yeah,
I'm that part that, as people say, I'm hiding in school, and I don't want to face the real world. So I'm getting my master's. I guess I conned Arizona into accepting me into their master's program. So joke's on them. Yeah. Graduate tomorrow. That's insane, dude.
You called me today. You were like, I'm leaving campus for the last time. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, it doesn't feel real. So I guess I'm like in the mindset of grad school. So it just feels like another semester is over.
Right.
Yeah, it hasn't set in at all, but
it's like when they have those third grade graduations and they're like, and you just go to fourth grade.
Yeah.
They do that.
Or like middle school. Like you're done with middle school, you're going to high school. It's like, yeah, middle school's over, but I have more school. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I know this is a much bigger deal, but
maybe a little. Well, we haven't spoken since the trade deadline because we had finals and everything and whatever, it just didn't line up. So we have some deals we want to talk about.
Hold up.
Yep. Whoop.
I got to do my plug of the episode.
Oh, yeah. Who's going to sponsor us today?
We need, and it's insane that it's taken me this long to find this sponsor. Let's get Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
I mean, they're above my shoulder every episode.
No, you definitely said. I think Taco Bell was the first one.
All right, well, do it again. Taco Bell.
How about Yeti?
There you go. I'll take a free Yeti.
Yeah, me too.
A Yeti with our logo on it? That'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be sick.
All right, trade deadline.
Okay,
that happened 6 weeks ago.
With your Caps, Anthony Mantha was acquired for Jacob Vrana, Richard Panik, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. So it's a big price, but I don't know if it's still true, but as of a couple of days ago, nobody had scored more in the time that Washington acquired Mantha than Mantha. So seems to be worth it, at least in the short term. We'll see what happens.
Actually, Vrana has scored more now.
Yeah, is it true?
Yeah, he scored 4 goals. 2 games ago, he scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
So this trade first happens. I text Christian. I'm like, we got fleeced. He's like, it looks like that on paper, but it makes sense. Vrana was an RFA. Pretty sure Panik's contract was up. So their contracts combined is worth Mantha's, I think, 5.2 a year. And he's through 2023. So we have insurance. We have him at least for next season. Who knows if we'll protect him with the expansion draft in Seattle coming. I miss Vrana. He's such an electric player. He helped us win the cup. That's not really where my issue lies. It's giving up a first round and a second round pick next year in an expansion draft year where we're going to need young guys, to really be on the third and fourth lines because we can't protect everyone in an expansion draft. So the picks were my issue. It sucks to see people that helped you win the cup go, but Mantha's been, he's been a stud on our second line. It's the picks that I have a problem with, but
yeah, picks are sort of like, they seem like an afterthought, but they're really a very valuable part of the deal. And you
especially first round.
On the surface, this is Anthony Mantha for Jacob Vrana and like a depth forward.
Yeah.
When in reality, it is like, the picks are insult to injury in a way. But I think it was worth it, especially because they have 2 more years on his contract. I think it's huge at a great price. So yeah, I definitely, it would stink if we parted with someone like that. Just trying to like put myself in your shoes.
But someone told me, they said if we win the cup, that pick's the 31st pick.
Yeah.
So like obviously if we win the cup, it's not that big of a deal. But if we don't win the cup, it's like 22nd, which is
what's a 32nd pick, I think. Doesn't Seattle pick this year?
I have no idea.
They're officially an NHL team.
That's
now.
true. Then yes, so it'd be the 32nd pick.
So I think they do pick. We'll run through some of the other deals. Devin Dubnyk was acquired by the Avs. Nick Foligno to Toronto for a first.
Which we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. This other guy, David Savard, we knew he was on the way out too. He went to Tampa for a first and third round pick. And that deal involved the Red Wings somehow. I think the Red Wings get a third round pick and they eat some of the salary in exchange for that pick.
Yeah, I think it was weird because I think it was Tampa. It was like a 4-team trade. Like we were somehow involved with Mantha and the Red Wings and Columbus and Tampa. And it was all of those draft picks are connected somehow.
I don't know how, but David Savard is a $6 million player going to a team with less than $1 million worth of cap space at the deadline, which also is a wrinkle in the Mantha trade, in that Vrana and Mantha have similar salaries. I would assume Vrana's probably $4 million.
I think Vrana's like 3.25.
Right. So they had to pick a guy who would get a little bit of a chunk, because I know they were in a little bit of cap trouble. Well, it's not trouble until the season, but they didn't have a ton of flexibility, and they ended up getting a great guy. So same sort of thing with Tampa getting David Savard for a first and a third round pick, but there was a lot of finagling to do in order to stay under the cap, which credit to them, because remember at the beginning of the season, they did like a workaround in which they exempted Nikita Kucherov, who skated this week, who could potentially play before the end of the season, but is not allowed to because his salary was exempted until the playoffs. And I would assume he would be playing at probably about 90% game one of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And his $7 million, $8 million is not even on the books.
Well, so a 90% Kucherov is better than 98% of the league. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you take that where you were able to build this roster around him, but he has to work his way back into the lineup in games that really matter. But you take
Devin Dubnyk going to Colorado is huge, because we talked about Devin Dubnyk. I mean, he was a Vezina finalist the year. Hope he won it. He's a solid backup. He's probably going to play 2 out of the last 5 games here down the stretch. And Grubauer's been on fire. So that's huge for the Avs.
They were in a nightmare scenario in the bubble when both of their goalies went down. Yeah, Grubauer and Francouz, and they had
a third string, I think, making his first career start in Game 7. Yeah. So
exactly. So they get to avoid that this year, which is huge. And if he has to step in, they could feel confident with him.
All right, let's get to the big one.
Yep, the last trade. The name of the deadline, I'd say. Well, we talked about all the names of the deadline, but this is one of them. Taylor Hall. He goes to the Bruins along with Curtis Lazar for Anders Bjork and a second-round pick. At this point, we got him on Monday. It seemed like Taylor Hall's value had dropped a lot, because I didn't think that was a huge price to pay for him at all. I mean, it felt like Bjork and Lazar straight up is trading 2 different players, but is trading 2 depth forwards. So you basically got Taylor Hall for a second-round pick.
So we were like on the golf course, right, when this went down? And
it happened late at night, I think.
Yeah, and then we golfed the next day, and we were on the golf course talking about it, and we talked for like the entire front 9 about Taylor Hall and potentially getting back to his old ways, and not necessarily being the Hart Trophy player, but if he's anything above what he was in Buffalo, this is going to be huge for the Bruins.
Yeah, and my point was, even if, and we expected, both of us expected him to resurge at least a little bit, be a little bit revitalized by being on a winning team. But I said, even if that doesn't happen, it's worth a second-round pick to see if it does. Like
an experiment.
Second-round pick.
Yeah. And that's my thing. You guys get a Hart Trophy winner, and we got Anthony Mantha for a first round. So, that's kind of where I'm pissed off. But
right. So,
you mentioned before the show started, the Bruins are 7-2-1 in their last 10. Hall is a big part of that. That second line has been on fire.
Lazar, I mean, you read some of these articles about who won and lost at the deadline. Lazar is not even mentioned in as a part of this trade, and he's been huge as well. And then we also got Mike Riley, who is a third, fourth defenseman. He's playing on the power play, which has been god awful, but he's been a part of that too.
I think the pickup of the year so far across the league in the offseason is Craig Smith. He has been lights out for you guys.
He's been enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird because the Bruins have people, they always have guys like that they pick up either at the deadline or the offseason that people sort of write off and they show up in a big way. Marcus Johansson was an example of that.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Craig Smith's definitely going to be big time in the playoffs. He's already showed up in big games this season.
Let's hope so, yeah. I feel good about the team right now. If you asked me our last episode, and you did ask me that last episode, and I didn't feel good at all because we were slumping. And then after that episode, we lost the day before the deadline to the Capitals, 8-1.
That was awesome.
Which is a real kick in the tail. And that, yeah, if you're a Bruins fan, you don't feel great on Monday morning. But then you pick up Taylor Hall, and we've gone on a tear since then. It seems like the top 3 teams in the East could not be playing better at this moment. All 3 teams are firing, and the odd man out there, the odd team out is the Islanders, who are struggling.
Yeah, which is crazy because a week ago you would have said the top 3 teams are the Caps, Pens, and Isles, and the Bruins are like treading water.
Yeah,
now
trying
the narrative
to get a spot. Yeah,
the narrative has changed where it's Penguins, Caps, Bruins are the top 3 teams, and the Islanders, while they're 10 points ahead of the Rangers and probably will make the playoffs.
I think they've already clinched, but yeah,
they're 4-4-2. Like that's not in a 7-game series.
They're probably 2-4-2 in their last 8 games. They're limping into the playoffs here.
Which, remember, last year they were on the worst losing streak of the season going into COVID. And then they got the time off and came back and they actually went to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, right.
So they don't get a break this time.
No, they don't.
They're going to have to find it somehow.
Yeah, and so they did just clinch their spot. And you just mentioned the Rangers, who in their first game since being mathematically eliminated, played the Capitals. I didn't watch the game, but I know it was chippy. I know it was scrappy. Tensions boiled over at the end. Tom Wilson, whatever, punch guys, threw him to the ice, gets fined. It's really hard to, and we'll talk about this quickly because I think we're going to be kind of on the same page here. First of all, if it's not Tom Wilson, this is not a story. Second of all, of course, my gut reaction was, yeah, he should be suspended. Before even seeing anything, I was like, he should be suspended because he's Tom Wilson. But seeing it, it's like, how do you suspend a guy for stuff that happens between plays just because it looked bad? Like, stuff happens between every single whistle in the NHL. So, like, it's not like he threw an elbow at a guy mid-play and is getting suspended for that. It's like, yeah, he threw a guy to the ice, but he didn't get hurt. And if he did, I'm sure it's a different story, which that's a separate debate. But
so if you watch the video, it's around it's like in the goalie crease. So it's the whistle's blown. I mean, it happens almost every time a goalie freezes the puck, especially near the playoffs. Players scrum, get away from my goalie. You know, it's that sort of mentality. So of course I'm a Tom Wilson defender. But whatever. He's fine, not suspended. I don't think it was worth suspending. Again, like you said, if it's not Tom Wilson, no one's even talking about this.
Yeah.
I did see a tweet that said Capitals fans, like, if Tom Wilson burned down an orphanage and killed everyone inside, Caps fans would still tweet the gif of him skating with because that's true. Yeah. Like, people be like, Tom Wilson's a bum, and then literally the first comment is him just holding the Stanley Cup. Yeah. So I wouldn't go that far, like me personally, but I get it. So because it was same thing. If Marchand pulled Anakin Skywalker on an orphanage, he's still a Stanley Cup champ and a first ballot Hall of Fame ice hockey
We'd
player.
be like, yeah, but that's how he gets into games.
Yeah. So
that's just how he's wired. Yeah. But okay, so we talked about the reactions to this, and we talked about some reactions by Capitals fans. The reactions the other way are far more ridiculous and hilarious when you read them. There are some tweets asking for Tom Wilson to be kicked out of the league.
Of course.
One of those gross overreactions was by the rival team in that game, the New York Rangers. And I have the statement pulled up here, and you are not going to believe that an actual NHL team.
Yeah, so I'm gonna preface this before you read this. The Rangers organization. This isn't a fan club. This isn't a fan. This isn't some other organization. This is the New York Rangers via
on their Twitter account.
Yes.
In their Twitter stationery. So the PR department literally drafted this statement. And here's what it says. Statement from the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers are extremely disappointed that Capitals forward Tom Wilson was not suspended for his horrifying act of violence last night at Madison Square Garden. It sounds like he,
it literally sounds like he burned down an orphanage.
Yeah, it does. Wilson is a repeat offender with a long history of these types of acts, and we find it shocking that the NHL and their Department of Player Safety failed to take the appropriate action and suspend him indefinitely. Wilson's dangerous and reckless actions caused an injury to Artemi Panarin that will prevent him from playing again this season. That's a lie. I'll get back to that. We view this as a dereliction of duty by the head of player safety, George Parros, and we believe he is unfit to continue in his current role. That is the end of the statement. So not only did they ask for a guy to be kicked out of the league until further notice, a very prolific guy, by the way, someone that scores goals. David Pastrnak once said he was the best goal scorer in the league, but we'll get to that.
He did say that last year in the bubble.
But Artemi Panarin is not hurt for the rest of the year. They have 6 games left and they're mathematically eliminated, and he is not going to play anymore. So that is ridiculous. I've never seen a team call for a person's job before. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And we remember, Matt, the Rangers released a statement that was shocking as well, surprising, I'll say, when Panarin was out because he was threatened by the government and there was this hit piece out on him. And they said, like, they used non-professional language, like this is an obvious attempt to,
yeah, like the Kremlin is using an embarrassing attempt to slander one of our players. Like we fully back Panarin, which was true.
Yeah, and we love that.
In that instance, I was a fan of it. But
agreed.
To go after a player on like a play that didn't even matter.
Yeah.
Again, because Buchnevich is not hurt.
No, they think Panarin is the one that's hurt, which is not true.
I know, and he wasn't even fine. He was fined for the roughing play on Buchnevich.
Yeah.
Not Panarin.
Right. Yeah, which was like right next to the post where he was on the ground and he kind of threw a jab.
So the game misconduct and the result of the fine is for a player that's not even mentioned in this PR statement. I mean, what the hell is wrong with the Rangers? Also, if we're going to talk about bad press releases, I mean, whoever and the reason I want to bring this up is this statement going on Twitter has to go through about 3 departments, like PR department, social media, communications department. It has to go through like 3 green lights to get tweeted. The Las Vegas Raiders tweeted after the George Floyd conviction of the police officer. They tweeted a picture that says, "We can breathe," with the date. And everyone lost their minds.
Yes.
I mean,
that was
rightfully so.
That was ridiculous.
I mean, rightfully so, because that's another example of it has to go through like 4 different people to look at it and say, yes, this is okay.
Well, that was an instance in which the owner logged into the Twitter and tweeted it. His intentions were good, but that was so tone deaf. That's besides. In case you're wondering, the tweet is still up, which means that everybody in the organization has now seen it and decided that it should stay on the Twitter.
Whatever, dude. Good luck next year.
I've never seen anything like this in my life.
I mean, look, Panarin's going to be golfing in a month, so who cares? Whatever. Rangers, do your thing.
Fine, too. He's fine.
Anyway, the Raiders missed the mark by a mile, and the Rangers, whoever tweeted this, is insane. So there we go.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do a quick fantasy update before we get to our game of the week and power rankings. Zach and my dad, Kevin, are playing in the finals right now. I'm not really sure when it ends because the season ends in the middle of next week. But the score right now is Zach 189. He's the Screaming Eagles against Team Goalie Goon, I think it is. He's at 177. So it's a 12-point deficit right now. It's still anyone's game, it looks like. And we'll update you when that happens. Again, the winner will be on the pod later this summer.
Yeah. So, Mr. Brady, you better pick up some players or something.
Oh, yeah, you gotta step it up.
And it's funny because we talked about before the pod, me and Christian, and it stinks. We got to find a different prize because we are so like unincentivized. Like the prize is to be on the pod. We're on it every week. I haven't set my lineup since week 2. So, and it's funny because Mr. Brady and my brother Zach and Nick as well. I don't know how invested Danny is.
No.
Yeah, okay. Like set their lineups every day or like texting me like key updates. You said your dad does the same. So it makes sense that the 2 people most invested in this are in the finals. Yeah.
That should be.
So anyway. And it's gonna be a lot of fun having one of them on the pod. So
Agreed. Okay. I'll let you get to the game of the week.
all right, game of the week. Shocker to no one. To our 6 listeners. Boston at Washington, May 11th. I think it's 7 p.m. puck drop. It's the last game of the regular season for both teams. This one was actually moved from like April, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't even canceled. It was just moved because other games were canceled.
Yeah, so the regular season is supposed to end like May 9th, and now it's like May 17th because of Vancouver missing a month.
Yeah, a week. Yeah, more than a week.
So
17 people in their organization test positive.
And this is a big game. This is a big game because, I mean, there's games until then, but Washington is 2 points behind Pittsburgh with a game in hand. And the Bruins are catching up to the Caps.
Bruins are 2 points behind the Caps with a game in hand on them and 2 games in hand on Pittsburgh. So,
oh, damn, they both have 2 games in hand on Pittsburgh. They both played 52 games. So the Bruins are 2 points straight up behind the Caps. But they both do have 2 games in hand on Pittsburgh, which is huge. This is a big game because if the season were to end today, they're playing in the first round, Caps and Bruins. Me and Christian won't talk for the 2 weeks that they're playing. Yeah, one of us will man up and say, look, dude, I'm sorry. My team destroyed yours in 4, and it'll definitely be me. So, yeah. This game might decide our friendship because we might have to play in the playoffs first round. I mean, we're going to have to play in the playoffs anyway, but
yeah,
if we keep winning.
Yeah, you're right. Who knows? And we'll be able to tell more when it gets closer, but yeah, that could have significant implications as far as potentially who wins the division or even like who gets home ice for that first series.
And remember, the Caps are 5-time reigning champs of the East Division, or not weird. The East.
The Metro.
It was the Metro.
Yeah.
If they win the division this year, it'll be first time ever 6 division titles in a row, which is, I mean, to only lead to 1 cup is abysmal, but that's a different story. So you gotta. It's the small victories. Anyway, Caps win 8-1. And that's not an outlandish score because we get it last time we played.
It happened. It did happen. I don't know. I'll have to see. Because that's the back end of a back-to-back for us. So I don't feel great about those. Plus, if there's nothing to have, like, if it's 3 points, if the Caps are 3 points ahead at that point, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of does because, well, not really because we have rest anyway because the Canadian teams can't.
It could end up being that neither of us are playing any players in that game.
Yeah.
Or it could be that we're playing for the division and it's a playoff game, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll know when we get closer.
Look forward to that.
Okay, let's get into our power rankings. There's a new team on top. These power rankings are from a different person. Zach Chandon. Sorry if I'm saying that.
Yeah, sorry if we butchered that.
Okay. Number 1 is Colorado. They are on a crazy streak. I think they've lost a couple times since they won like 12 in a row or something. But
7-3 in their last 10, but they have won 3 in a row.
Yeah, and them and Vegas are both extremely hot right now. So I don't know, actually. Let me look at that division. Vegas is up by 2 points. Colorado has a game in hand. So that is going to come down right to the wire.
Yeah. And that's big.
Yeah.
So Colorado's remaining schedule is San Jose, LA twice, Vegas, LA twice again to end the season. You got to think that San Jose game tonight is a win. So that means Colorado and Vegas are tied. You have to think in that division, Colorado has the easiest remaining schedule. And we'll get to Vegas here in a sec because they're obviously in the top two, or in the top as well. But at West, the top two, I mean, the Wild are so good too. Yeah, it's going to be awesome down the stretch.
All right, yeah, I'm excited for that race, and we'll go to the Central Division, where the Carolina Hurricanes have the best record in hockey with 79 points at 36, 10, and 7. They have a 4-point lead on Florida with a game in hand on them, so it looks like with 3 games remaining is all they have, it looks like. They'll wrap up that division pretty soon.
They're also the hottest team in hockey. They've won 5 in a row, 7-0-3 in their last 10. So 10 points in their last 10. No, 17 points in the last 10 games. That's unbelievable. I mean, good for this
Dallas,
team.
Whether it's Dallas or Nashville that ends up with that last spot, it looks like it's going to be Nashville as we speak. You do not want to play Carolina right now. Doesn't seem like anybody has a chance against them.
Plus, this has been coming for a long time. 2 years ago, Carolina made the Eastern Conference Final as an underdog, as an 8th seed, I believe. And yeah, I mean, Rob Brendamore's got that ship. That's just a well-oiled machine right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, number 3, shocker to no one. The Vegas Golden Knights are in the top 3 again. He says last week they were number 1. They've been number 1 most of the season, which isn't a shocker. I mean, their goalie duo of Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury are the reason they lead the division. And their remaining games are Minnesota tonight, St. Louis twice, Colorado May 10th, San Jose. So they're going to have a little bit of trouble if they can't beat Colorado because they got St. Louis twice before then. So I would favor Colorado to win the division if my money's on it due to their easier schedule. But Vegas is so good. They're so good.
They are. Yeah, and all 3 of those teams seem interchangeable. This next team seems interchangeable as well. And I don't know when we get to Pittsburgh at this point, somewhere in here, but they're playing lights out right now too. There's a lot of teams peaking at the right time. And in contrast, there's plenty of teams who are limping into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we'll get to Washington, who is one of those teams playing well right now. And they say it's a no duh kind of answer, which is, pretty true. And again, you could put, I don't think you get too many complaints if you put any of these teams at any point in the top 5.
So Washington at 4. Here's my thing. And I really like the way he put this. Franchise star Alex Ovechkin being in UFA this summer. The Capitals need to come to a deal that will see Ovechkin break Wayne Gretzky's goal record in the coming seasons while wearing a Capital sweater. I like that because he's saying it's not an if, it's a when Ovi breaks Wayne Gretzky's record. The thing is, if we have another embarrassing first round loss in the playoffs, why the hell would Ovi want to come back? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. If we make a deep run or win the cup, he'll take a pay cut. I mean, he'll want to stay with Nick Backstrom. He'll want to stay with Tom Wilson. He'll want to stay with TJ Oshie. He'll want to stay with John Carlson. Like, we need to produce for this guy. He's won 1, but he's still not in the same conversation as Crosby. He's still not in the same conversation as, guys that have won it multiple times. So that is the question mark of the equation for me. If we get embarrassed again in the first round like we have the past 2 years, I don't see him staying unless we pay him $10.5 million.
Well, that's an interesting question because do you think he'll ever play for another NHL team? I really don't think he will.
I don't know. I mean, There's people that we've said that. Did we think Chara would be in red this season?
No,
so like
definitely not.
There's people we've said that about.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely true.
The best example that I can think of in recent history is Brady going to Tampa. At no point did I think I would ever see Brady. It's still weird to me.
And now even Rodgers wanting to leave the Packers is going to be a weird thing.
So players do it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to number 5, the Florida Panthers, who are in an interesting position here with the team behind them. We'll just do a duo here, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Those two teams are fighting for the second and third spots. They have them blocked up as we speak. They're in the playoffs, and they definitely won't finish fourth. But the two of them are fighting for home ice advantage in the first round series, the Battle of Florida, which I think is going to be electric because they've sort of developed a kind of rivalry in this last season. The one that I think everyone sort of wished would be there, but never really came to fruition until this year.
Yeah. Dude, hockey in the South is sick, especially in Florida. It's not supposed to work, but it does. I mean, they're the reigning Stanley Cup champs for a reason. Yeah. Tampa's got 4 games in the next 5 days, including a series. Yeah, including a series against Florida to end the season. If these guys have to play 2 games to end the season and then a 7-game series against each other, the 2 games to end the season will be way more important than face value. I mean, these people, Florida at 5, Tampa at 6, they're interchangeable. They're both on fire. If Kucherov can come in at least 90%, give me heavy money on Tampa. But until then,
Stamkos skated this morning as well with Kucherov. So the two of them will be back for game 1, it sounds like.
But Florida, I mean, Bobrovsky's playing out of his mind right now.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I'm excited for this Florida series. I think it's going to be electric, like you said. I agree with you.
Okay, let's go up north to Toronto. They're at number 7. They fall from 5. They basically have that division locked up. I don't think people are as high on Toronto right now as they would have been a month or 2 into the season, but they're still a great team. They're definitely going to win that division. They have a 6-point lead with 4 games left. I like Toronto right now, especially having picked up Nick Foligno.
Yeah. Nothing to say. Toronto, I mean, they're struggling as of late, 5-3-2 in their last 10, but they'll find a way.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a legit goalie controversy or one that's just being, manufactured, but who plays goalie for them in the playoffs? Frederik Andersen, I think, just came off of injury. Jack Ham lost less than 3 games because he was at 10-0 at one point. So who knows who plays? The discussion they're having here in this article is who's the goalie of the future. Seems like Jack Ham was the obvious answer to me, but I want to know who plays in the playoffs because I could see them being successful playing either of them. And honestly, Frederik Andersen, that formula has not worked in the past for them.
Well, let's go to a similar situation as last year. Bubble, they got a guy during the season, plays well in the regular season. Who do they go with? Their franchise guy and Marc-Andre Fleury, or the guy they got at the deadline. Vegas went with the guy at the deadline, and it didn't really work out, but it was the right decision. On the other hand, Fleury felt betrayed by the organization that gave him a 5-year extension. So they have to be tricky with how they treat this situation because if they go with Jack Campbell, Anderson will probably want out. But like you said, they've tried the Frederik Andersen experiment in the playoffs, and he's not that good in the playoffs. From what we've seen, he crumbles under pressure. So, yeah, that's a critical decision that they're going to have to make.
Agreed. Okay, we'll move on to the West. Minnesota Wild are the clear number 3 team in that division. They've clinched a playoff spot. I think they're flying under the radar just because they hang in there with 2 of the best teams in the league, and it'd be hard to argue against Colorado and Vegas not being 2 of the top 3 teams in the league, and Minnesota is hanging right there with them. So I think they have to be a dark horse going into the playoffs here. Again, they have to get out of that division with those other two teams. But having to play in that division and being as successful as they are speaks to how good a team that is. And I don't think enough people are talking about that.
Yeah, we definitely don't give them enough credit on this podcast. It's tough because they're overshadowed by 2 out of the top 3 teams in the league, like all season long, Colorado and Vegas. The crappy thing about it is they're gonna have to play one of those teams in the first round. Like they don't get time off from facing those teams.
And they're gonna have to beat both of them to make the conference finals. So.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I do want to point out, and it's a positive thing. Last year, when we pre-COVID, to end the season last year, the Wild kind of went on like a fire sale of their best players, and we said like they're giving up, they're looking towards the future. Well, the future wasn't that far away as far as success because they're balling out right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're the clear number 3 team in this division. They're 8-1-1 in the last 10, the hottest team in that division.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone expected them to be 15 points ahead of the number 4 team in the Blues. And yeah, I mean, to be the clear cut number 3 in this division is way better than face value because they're playing with 2 out of the best 3 teams in the entire league. So,
okay, we'll talk about number 9, the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a team that seems to be putting it all together at the right time. Tristan Jarry, who has not had a good year, the Penguins decided to make him their franchise guy when they let Matt Murray sign in Ottawa this offseason. And he hasn't lived up to expectations until recently, plus getting Malkin back. Gensel and Crosby are clicking as we speak. So they are in good position right now. They're playing very well.
Yeah, I watched them live. Shut out. I watched Jarry shut out my team in the only hockey game I've been to in like 500 days. Yeah, I hate to admit it, but Pittsburgh looks really good right now. Their forecheck, I mean, watching it live, their forecheck might be the best in the league. It's unbelievable, especially with guys like Rust. Those PK guys. I mean, it says their PK is one of the weaker ones in the league, but I mean, their secondary scoring is on a roll right now. Russ scored 2 against us. It's those weird guys like, I don't know if Hornquist is still on their team, but like weird guys like that, you know, that score big goals in the playoffs. They have a lot of those guys. So I'd be scared if I'm the team that has to face them first round of the playoffs.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And I can attest to that comment you made about their forecheck. It is very frustrating to watch your team play against them.
Yeah.
They're too hard on the defensemen every single time. It's very difficult to break the puck out against them, which is so annoying to watch when you're rooting for the team against them.
Yeah, I mean,
extremely hard to play against.
A lot of odd man rushes, a lot of defensemen trying to pinch to create space, and it leading to breakaways or, like I said, odd man rushes. I mean, they scored on 2 breakaways because our defensemen they feel helpless. I mean, they're just trying to get up in the play to create something, and they can't.
Yeah. Okay. We'll round out this show with talking about the only important topic that we've addressed today, and that is the Boston Bruins. They seem to be clicking right now, like I talked about with Pittsburgh. This is the formula that we've been looking for since Milan Lucic played with David Krejci, and that was back in 2013. Taylor Hall has finally stepped in on David Krejci's side, and Craig Smith, for that matter, who you mentioned before. Both of them have stepped in and who've become his line mates in the past basically 3 weeks, with Smith moving around the lineup a lot until then. And the top 6 are just unstoppable right now. I'd like to see the bottom 6 score more, but again, how much more scoring do you need? Defense is young. That's going to be an issue going forward. I don't want to talk everyone's ear off about the Bruins, but I feel a lot better right now than I did a couple weeks ago. The Bruins are definitely not your typical third place team right now.
Now, it's kind of the same thing as the Wild. They're playing really well, and it's tough to be at the top of the East Mass Mutual East Division when teams like Pittsburgh and Washington are playing really well.
Although I will say, Matt, I think the Bruins get more credit than Minnesota because the East is touted, and rightfully so, as the toughest division, and it's not even close. But the West is not given that much credit. But I think it should, because those top 3 teams could hold their own against the rest of the league for sure. And the same goes for the top 3 in the East.
For sure. I mean, they were in the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago. The Bruins not always get the credit they deserve, but they always get enough credit, if that makes sense. Just because of the teams like the Wild aren't going to get any credit. That's why we were trying to give them some this episode. But if I'm a Bruins fan, I'm not worried at all. I think Taylor Hall, like you said, clicking on that second line is something you guys have been searching for. I mean, even 2 years ago when you made the Cup final, those were trade deadline acquisitions.
I guess
Johansson
who played the right wing with Jake DeBrusk and David Krejci in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Was it David Backes?
It was not. It was Carson Kuhlman.
Who?
Yep. A guy who still is interchangeable in the bottom 6. He doesn't even play regular minutes. He's not in the lineup regularly, and he was our second line right winger.
Yeah, so, I don't even know.
I feel like we're in a good position right now.
Yeah. Sweet. That's all I got. I graduate tomorrow. What is going on?
Yeah. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
Yeah, go get drunk.
Yeah. Oh, Game 2 of Washington and New York is tonight. So one thing I will say about Tom Wilson is he always answers the bell. He's going to fight at least once tonight. So if you want to see some fights, go watch that game.
It's awesome for you guys because we get to beat the hell out of him after that tweet last night, and you guys play him tomorrow night. So
true. Yeah.
So you're welcome in advance.
Yeah, thanks. We need a couple wins against the Rangers coming up.
So next time y'all see me, I'll be a college graduate.
We will be previewing the playoffs too, which is crazy how quick that's going to happen. But
yeah, I know.
Excited about that.
All right. How do we usually end these? Go Tigers, go Caps. See y'all next week.
See ya.